First-century Christian theologist was having hard time to cope with the idea of astrology and fatalism. Fatalism claims that events are fixed in advance so that human beings are powerless to change them. From the time of Sumerian civilization, the gods wrote the fate in the sky, and there is nothing a common person can do to change his fate. Remember how Yahweh took Abraham out of firmament to show other stars, to convince him, Yahweh can change fate. Arguments against astrology. There were several arguments by church fathers against astrology. Point 1, practical impossibility, that it is not possible to exactly determine the horoscope. 2, different destinies, that discrepancies occur in the lives of people who have the same horoscope. 3, common destinies, that identical fates occur in the lives of people who have different horoscopes. 4, characteristics, manners and customs of whole peoples and nations are the same. They are not determined by each individual's horoscope. 5, if animals and human beings are equally subject to astrological influence, then animals would have the same destinies as humans. Result of belief in astrology. The belief in all-powerful fate suppresses moral obligation because morality presupposes personal responsibility. If human needs are caused by the external influence of fate, then no one could be praised or blamed, rewarded or punished, for his/her actions. Religious belief would be nullified, for fatalism renders prayers and sacrifices useless. Position of heavens. The exact moment of the horoscope, whether of conception or birth, cannot be determined since both of these events occur over shorter or longer periods of time rather than at one specific moment. Gregory the Great remarked that the length of birth meant that different parts of a baby ought to have different horoscopes, since a child is born under a succession of zodiacal signs. In his Against Fate, Gregory of Nyssa asks how one can measure the horoscope of a ship, or a city, or a nation, since each of these are manufactured and developed over a period of time. At what exact stage in the construction of a ship, or the building of a city, or the development of a people, is the horoscope to be determined? Every day a king must born. Basil of Caesarea, if at each moment of time the formation of the stars changes, and in such myriad changes the royal astral configuration occurs many times a day, why are not kings born every day? Why only the children of royalty inherit the throne? Citing by way of illustration the royal genealogy of Israel. Augustine. When the subject of astrology first arises in Augustine's Confessions, he writes that Christians oppose astrology because it means shirking human responsibility for sin and attributing it rather to God. Admitting his own attraction to astrology as a young man, Augustine immediately writes that astrology is rejected and condemned by true Christian. For Augustine, astrologers destroy the doctrine of Christianity by saying the reason or your sinning is determined by the heaven, and Venus or Saturn or Mars was responsible for this act. If this were true, the blame for evil acts would lie with the Creator, who ordered the heavens and stars and is our God, sweetness and source of justice. Astrology is the work of demons. Among the early Christians, the most common view concerning the origins of astrology was that it is the work of evil demons. For example, the 2nd century writer Tatian asserted that the demons taught a chart of the constellations to humankind, thus making humans subject to the demons' own apostasy and to the power of fate. Christ had set humanity free of astrology. The ancient world had a belief that preeminent among the cosmic was fate, that is, the fatal domination exercised over the sublunar realm, including Earth, by means of the planets and the fixed stars. Concept of fate or destiny was conceived in terms of binding and related images, for example spinning or weaving ropes, cords, webs, nets. From this power that the early Christians believed the coming of Christ had set humanity free, Ignatius parallels the phrase "every bond of evil vanished with all magic has been destroyed." Christ had set people free from the bonds which held them fast, including magic and astrological fate. This early Christian idea of liberation from astrological fate was expressed succinctly by John Chrysostom in Homilies 6:1, Christ set us free from the power of astrology. Star over other stars. How can Christ's birth be a victory over the cosmic powers of the universe? In Ephesians 19:2, Ignatius portrays thee as a chorus of lesser stars which are outdone by the appearance of Christ's single bright star. A comparable text is Protevangelium of James 21:2, where the Magi say to Herod, "We saw an immense star shining among these stars and making them dim, so that the stars no longer shone. And so we knew that a king was born for Israel." Defeat of the zodiac. Prudentius portrays defeat of the zodiac before the new star Jesus. Apotheosis 617:26, Serpens withdraws, Leo flees, Cancer contracts its claws at its side as if maimed, the bullock, Taurus, having been tamed groans with its horns broken, Capricorn withers, its coat torn to pieces, here the banished water boy, Aquarius, glides down, there too Sagittarius, Gemini wander, separated as they flee, shameless Virgo gives up her silent lovers in the vault of heaven, the other fiery orbs that hang in the terrible clouds are afraid before the new star. In all these texts we can understand that astrology is a similar belief like Abrahamic religions. In astrology, fate is affected by the positioning of multiple heavenly bodies and written hard-coded in the skies. In Abrahamic religions your fate is also hard-coded, written and known, by a single God, according to his will.